Say a man from Kenya hired a hitman to kill his wife in Putnam.
Connecticut private detective, how you doing? I got one for you. This one's a doozy. It's funny, as a licensed private detective here in Connecticut, we don't have access to search for protective orders or restraining orders. I find that very unusual. I mean, I get a lot of calls from clients who want to locate someone or they want to follow someone. So I always have to interview them and I have to ask them the question, is there a restraining order or is there a protective order? And all they have to do is be convincing and say no. I have no way of proving it. So listen to this. I got a client from Africa, Kenya, flew over, calls me up, says, my wife and my two kids left Africa and they came here. I believe they're here in Connecticut. We got to find them. I want to serve her papers so that I can go into court, do a child custody case and get my kids and go back to Kenya. So I do my normal interview and I ask again, are there any restraining orders or protective orders? And of course, says no. So I start the investigation. They just got here, so it's not like they've established any real residency. So after a few days, I say, you know what? I can't really find them. Let's wait it out another few weeks and let's see if they end up purging into my system, if they get an apartment or register a vehicle or something. Well, a couple weeks later, I get a call from my client again saying he's got a court date now and he would like to have her followed after the court date to see where she lives so he can serve her again if necessary. Once again, I ask, are there any protective orders or restraining orders? No. So after court, this particular person comes out with another woman and a Connecticut state trooper to walk her to her car. Right then and there, I said, uh-oh, that tells me there's probably a restraining or protective order. So I call him up and I said, hey, there's a problem. I followed her to an address, but I can't give it to you. I believe there may be a restraining order or a protective order. And he says, no, we just had the hearing in court today. And he provided me with a document that says that the petition for the restraining order, both parties agreed to squash it. And I have it signed by the court. I don't hear anything for a few weeks. He calls me up. Hey, I'd like you to do another day of surveillance. I want to know if my wife, who's here, is working, where the kids are going to school, what she's up to, so that I can utilize it for my information for court. Okay. So I go out to start surveillance, and something just doesn't feel right. Call it intuition, call it a PI's experience of 30 years, whatever it is. At a particular point, about 3 hours in, I said, you know what? I'm going to quit this case. So I text my client. I said, that's it. I'm done. I don't think I need to do this case anymore. You're saying that there isn't a protective order or a restraining order, but I have a feeling there might be, so I'm done with this. Sorry. So a few days ago, on the news, I hear this.
It was all a setup.
The 52-year-old from Kenya was supposed to be going back to Africa later this week. Instead, he is locked up, charged with planning his wife's murder.
It was thought out in terms of the method of killing.
A grimace on the face of 52-year-old Leonard Mwathiga as a judge goes over his $5 million bond. He's from Kenya, but stays off and on at this Motel 6 in Putnam. Court documents say he was an abusive man in Kenya to his wife and two kids. They moved to Connecticut, and he followed. He asked a worker of his to find someone who can put some injection in his wife's food or water that would kill her slowly. The worker went to police. A sting operation was set up for late Monday at the motel. Police say Mwathiga gave the undercover hitman $400 up front and would give him another $4,000 when it was over. The plan was to have the hitman take the wife on a date, do drugs with her, and make sure she took pure fentanyl. Police say Mwathiga wanted a slow death for the wife, but ultimately agreed that the hitman could kill the victim in any manner. Investigators say they have all of this on video and audio surveillance.
It's a strong case for the state.
The killing was supposed to happen early next year when Mwathiga would be back in Kenya. Once he got a call confirming the death, the plan was to send the rest of the money. The judge made clear to Mwathiga today that he is not to have any contact with his wife, his kids, or that worker turned informant. He's due back in court in late January.
Damn. Some people, man, you just never know who you're dealing with in my line of work. Thankfully, at the time when I did the investigation, he did provide me with that document that says there was no restraining order, or the one that was requested was denied or mutually squished. But I'm glad that I canceled my surveillance because my intuition kicked in, because I don't want to be a contributing factor to this guy and his crazy, crazy, crazy self.